Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Alright everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today, we are reviewing Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a little hard to say. Jujutsu Kaisen 0. It is a recent anime movie based on the anime series Jujutsu Kaisen. Came out last week. I had a free Friday. Things happened. So, plus I really like the show. But yeah, this is a pretty decent movie. It's not perfect. Animation is fantastic. Gives great context to the show's plot without confusing people who haven't watched it. For those of you who don't know, Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is, obviously with a name like that, it's based on a show called Jujutsu Kaisen. It's essentially a world where negative human emotions cause curses to manifest. And these curses are like twisted abominations, born of human fears, anxieties, and their worst traits, essentially. So you'll have, and particularly places that get a lot of curses are places where people have a lot of anxiety. So you get interesting things like how schools can also be a big thing. Hospitals, because there's a lot of death and people grieving over loved ones they face in this world. Schools, because of the bullying, the pressure, the stress over tests, things like that. Actually, I think the schools are a very interesting one. It's like, yeah, curses are everywhere in schools, dude. But all in all, it's a very good show. Really good animation. And it essentially follows some group of people who are born with cursed energy. They can see curses where normal people can't, and they use the powers from that cursed energy to fight them off and protect the normalcy of the quote-unquote normal world. The monster designs are always very interesting. That continues here, definitely. And the fight scenes are just fantastic. And this movie takes it up to 11. I said this in my Demon Slayer movie, but whenever an anime with a really good, production budget, like when Demon Slayer, for example, got its movie, it already had fantastic animation, but then they got a movie budget to play around with, and they do amazing stuff there. Same thing with Jujutsu Kaisen. It also has fantastic animation. It was actually animated by Studio Mappa, and they just do fantastic work. Like, seriously, top tier job here. Really good stuff. Thing about Jujutsu Kaisen as a series is that it's always very expertly, in my opinion, mixed mundane drama and action and shonen action with just that tinge of horror. Like, the curses in this show can do some genuinely disturbing things. Body horror is a definitely recurring theme, especially in the curses themselves, which are always twisted and almost like they look like they're made of flesh, but they bend like they're made of liquid. And it's beautiful. I love the way they animate it. It just sends a little bit of goosebumps down my spine whenever I see them. Fantastic all around. One of the cool things about this movie is, so this movie, like Demon Slayer, also fixes a major problem with anime movies. The biggest problem for anyone who's seen an anime movie from like a few years ago is they don't really matter. And that hurts the plot. Most anime movies are essentially really good top tier filler. And the problem with filler is that, okay, for those of you who don't know what filler is, I'll explain. Filler is what we call pieces of an animation that don't affect the characters. So, in anime production, a lot of times it's based on like a manga or something like that, and when the source material is oftentimes being written or being made while the anime is being produced. So the anime will be being produced, and it'll catch up to the manga, let's say. And then it runs out of material. Instead of going away for a few weeks while the manga, catches up, or a few months while the manga can produce more stuff, it used to be that anime series had to go on forever. They had to keep going. So you had things like One Piece or Bleach or Naruto, and whenever they reached the source material's endpoint, they would just create a filler arc, which is basically a non-canon story, essentially, or a story that didn't happen in the original story, part of it. And the characters would not emotionally change. They would not physically change. Like, if a character loses an arm or something during a filler arc, you can be damn sure that arm is 100% going to somehow grow back in time for the next part of the anime, because they can't change the characters because they plan on just picking up afterwards. So it's basically a little mini adventure, but essentially it never happened. The anime will almost never reference it ever again, and none of the characters will ever reference it. Any powers they unlock there will vanish or never appear again. Any characters that happen to pause in a filler arc, unless that they come up in a different filler arc later on, basically outside of a filler, outside of the context of filler and other filler connected to it, it might as well not have happened, which makes it feel very pointless. Now, it's not to say you can't do content like that well, but it will always hurt from the fact that we know none of this is going to matter, and we know that none of the characters can emotionally or physically change, so it means there's not really any stakes. Literally, there is no stakes in filler at all, because you know for a fact that however they end in this will be the same as how they began. Again, you can do interesting things with it. Sometimes they'll have things where the characters forget stuff, and that sacrifice of, another character vanishing from their lives and like that. It's like, you can do interesting things with it. I've seen interesting things done. Naruto has maybe 1 or 2 interesting filler seasons, and the rest are garbage, though. So, filler has this problem where it can be good, but it's never going to be as good as really good parts of that same show, and when it's average, it's atrocious. And the movies suffer from this too, because they're always in this ambiguous time period with characters we're never going to see again, with a plot that cannot affect the characters in any meaningful way. So, in recent years, anime has actually tried to get away from this. We saw with Demon Slayer, where they basically turned a season of the an entire arc of the manga into a movie. So the movie was essentially essential watching. You have to watch the movie to know what's going on in the show. It's essentially a mini season. I like that approach. It's a very good approach. But you can't always do that, because that still runs into the same problem of we want more content. So what they did was, they took the prequel manga, which was apparently a pilot or some such thing for Jujutsu Kaisen, and they turned it into a movie. This means it can affect the ongoing narrative, but not directly. Meaning this stuff has already happened, and it sets context. This is actually ingenious. Just off the bat, I think this was a great idea. It has some flaws. I'll get to that in a minute. But it has a lot of strengths too. So, since this is a prequel, it can affect it. We know that since it doesn't involve the main character yet, or any of the main trio, they're not directly affected by any of this right now. So the characters we're getting invested in, we know where 4 of them are going to land, but one of them is suspiciously absent. And he becomes our main character. So we can get invested in his stakes. We can we actually see him being tested by the, opposing the villain that we've seen flirting around the edges in the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. So his plans, the villain's plans in this season, give greater context to his actions in the first season of the show. Which means this movie is both friendly to newcomers who don't know anything about the series and would like to know more, because it helps explain the concept and give you a good overarching arc with a character that comes to a satisfying conclusion. But simultaneously, it also feels like kind of essential watching, because, for example, I didn't know what the main villain's deal was yet. I've only seen the show. I haven't read the manga. So, for me, I've seen him flitting around the edges, talking with powerful special grade curses. Those are the top tier curses, the ones you don't mess with that are living natural disasters and stuff. And, he's been chatting with them like old friends, and he's always been lurking. He hasn't really done anything yet, essentially. But in this one, we see one of his first attempts, basically a test run of what he's currently doing in the main plot. So it gives a lot of insight into who he is, what his beliefs are, and stuff like that. So I feel like you kind of have to watch this if you're watching the show. But if you haven't seen the show yet, this is perfect entry-level viewing. This won't affect you at all, in my opinion. Now, it might take away some of the surprise of Gojo, because Gojo is king, but, Let's get into the characters now. So, we follow Yuta Okotsu. He is a Mikogai. He had a girlfriend when he was really young. He fell in love with this girl. It's implied due to some flashbacks that he was in the hospital. And she was too. They kind of bonded over that. They promised that when they grew up, they were going to get married together. And then she gets hit by a car and dies. But afterwards, she transforms into a curse. And he's had to keep her from murdering everyone around him constantly his whole life. when he accidentally let the power loose after he's unable to stop her from attacking a group of kids that were bullying him. She doesn't kill them, she just shoves them into a few lockers, but it catches the eye of the Jujutsu sorcerers. Jujutsu sorcerers in this world are people who are born with cursed energy inside their bodies, and as a result can use it to do basically magic. They all have a single basic magic attack they can do. Others can infuse cursed energy into weapons and stuff like that to create things. And they find out that he has this spirit inside him he's been holding back that is a special grade. That means it's basically a living natural disaster waiting to happen, and there are only a handful of them who could even kill it regardless. They tried putting him down on their own, like the elders and such, but they weren't able to do it. He even tried killing himself once he realized how much of a danger he was and fell into a bit of depressant, but the girl, Rika, would not let him. So, they call in the top gun of the Jutsu sorcerers. Gojo! Yay! Sorry, I just love Gojo. He's so much fun. So Satoru Gojo is basically, he's the child prodigy into his early adult years. He is a fucking badass. Like, I feel like 90% of the villain's plan is get him out of the way every time. Like in the series, this is also like one of the things. It's not really a problem, in my opinion, though, because the villains understand they can't win against him. They don't, like, there are only a handful of people who think, oh, I can totally beat this guy. It's like, no. All the top tier villains understand Gojo will wreck our asses. We need to distract him while we get ready for the plot so we can deal with him later. You can't beat him in a straight up fight. But Gojo is also he kind of hates the elders, and for good reason. The elders are assholes. Very traditionalist-minded people. Gojo wants to, has a bit more faith in the younger generation, wants to see them guided. And so he convinces them, look, you want me to kill him, and that'd be a lot of work. Might end up with both of us dead. So, since I'm like your only top guy, how about I take him under my wing? If he loses control, I'll put him down. But first, I'm going to try and teach him how to control this. So, Gojo essentially tries to teach Yuta how to control his powers. He brings him in to help out with, essentially basically there was a group of kids in the first season. They're the second year students at Jujutsu High School, where they train Jujutsu sorcerers, that kind of thing. And they were kind of like the older kids, Now, Yuta wasn't among them in season 1. We find out more about why that is. I'm not going to spoil anything yet. But the other 3 we actually got to know. So, we have Maki, Toge, and Panda. Maki is interesting. She's a non-sorcerer. She doesn't have any powers, but she has special cursed glasses and cursed weaponry that allow her to fight spirits. She was born to a noble sorcerer family. Being born without power in a family that's known for having sorcerer powers makes you kind of a disgrace. She wants to shove it in their faces by becoming one of the, best sorcerers around. Top, grade 1 sorcerer. She wants to really shove it in their faces. You got Panda. He's basically he's a living curse created by a powerful Jujutsu sorcerer who treats him like his son. He's a stuffed panda, essentially, created as almost like a golem with a lot of emotions. And then you have Toge Inumaka. He only speaks in ramen bowl ingredients, because his power is cursed speech. Basically, he can say things and those things happen, but it causes him a lot of pain if he does too much, and it also, wears down his voice, so he has to constantly, carry out throat medicine and stuff like that. He's really powerful, but sort of like I fire one shot, a few shots, and then I'm done. He also can only speak in ramen bowl ingredients because he's always afraid that he's actually accidentally going to curse somebody without meaning to. I mean, his voice is literally a weapon, so if he accidentally says the wrong things without constant control, he could, accidentally say, well, see you later, hope time flies by, and, accidentally launch you into the sky. Or something like that. It's like, yeah, I can understand why he only talks in ramen bowl ingredients. Makes perfect sense. It's weird, but it makes perfect sense. He speaks in proper nouns, essentially. But then you have Satoru Gojo. And he's just OP, the character. Holy shit, Gojo is OP. Basically, his power is that he can manipulate space to an insane degree. To the point where people don't touch him, they touch the infinity between him and them. Basically, as they get closer and closer to him, space distorts, going wider and wider. So when somebody tries to punch him, they never actually punch him. They just get, like, it's sort of like the approaching the limit of a number thing. Anyone who's gone to advanced math knows approaching the limit of a number. It's essentially a formula continuing as it approaches the limit of a number. So it keeps going infinitely so long, but it never reaches a value. And that's essentially Gojo. Like, your punch can come flying at him, and then it's like, why is it stopping? I can still feel the force. You've touched the infinite between us. It's like, Gojo is a freaking monster. I know I said it a few times. And Yuta's spirit, Rika, can actually do stuff like that. She's a giant, female distorted spirit that can utterly destroy things. She learns how to channel cursed energy, that he gets from the spirit. Although there's actually a later twist about that. And his main goal is essentially to help people and to set Rika free, because he, wants to free her from this cursed state. It's even hypothesized that he might have, his emotions might have caused her to get turned into a cursed spirit. We will get to that stuff later. All in all, I very much like this movie. The main plot has a villain. What was his name? Gato. And he's basically this evil curse user who set up this, he's this essentially curse user pyramid scheme where he uses non-curse users who he sees as inferior as a way to collect cursed spirits to absorb their energy, because that's that's his powers. He has the ability to crush cursed spirits into energy and basically absorb them into himself, turning them into a sort of summoner character, which is actually an interesting power set. I kind of like it. And he wants to take Rika, this very powerful special great spirit that's, powerful enough to fight Gojo, and could potentially even beat him. And he wants her to absorb her, to take her power and use it to finally usurp the world. Basically, he believes that all normal humans are inferior. Their only use is for money or to attract curses so he can absorb them. And when they can't pay or worship him enough, they should be killed. There's actually this one scene, this guy who used to be one of his, rich donors who he'd constantly free from curses. And at this point, he's doesn't have any money left to pay him, and he's just like, please get rid of them, get rid of them. And we can see these small little buzzing creatures all around him pulling at his face, and he can't, and then it cuts to him and you can't see anything, and you watch as his face just, it's like, almost like this cartoon effect, but sort of in the Mask way, where the cartoon effects affect real world, and it tears apart, the body, and then you just see a splatter of blood as they rip apart his face, and it's just like, wow, that's horrifying. And you really do get the feeling that he doesn't know what the hell is touching him. He literally can't see it. So the horror elements are all brand for this. Great stuff. Very creepy action. I definitely approve. So, all in all, this was a pretty good plot. He's essentially trying to steal Rika. He tries to distraction, get Gojo out of the way, and they have the final battle. We'll get into that later in the spoiler talk. As for flaws, this movie is not flawless, like I said. It feels a bit rushed, mostly in the introduction scene. So this was clearly based on a mini manga, like a short manga, where each character got their own, chapter or two to introduce themselves to the main character. So, Maki, Toga, and Panda do not get enough time. Panda doesn't get, so Toge and Maki go on a mission with Yuta. Both of them get a mission. And it fleshes out Yuta and Maki and their backstories. Hey, this is why I fight curses. Hey, you gotta take this seriously, kid. Oh, he's really creepy. Standard episode plot lines. But it's really short. It's basically an introductory scene and a battle. And that's basically it. There's not a lot of, it basically feels like half an episode's getting clipped. It basically feels like you took a 25-minute episode and you clipped out about half of it, literally cut down anything that wasn't completely essential, and then you shoved it into the middle of a 40-minute Netflix episode or something like that. It's not bad. I like the overarching plot. I like the twists in the plot. I like the villains. I like, the main characters. I don't like the villains. I hate the villain, but, it's, you like to see a horrible person get punished kind of thing. And I really enjoy Gojo. He's always a joy. But the middle section feels rushed. And when it's the bond between Yuta, Rika, Maki, and Toge, or, the second years, that does hurt a bit. Like, I think this would have been better if they could have either given it more time, maybe go from an hour and 30 minute to a 2-hour movie, or if they could have, gone and given this maybe as a TV show. And I get it. It's a good movie. I like this as a movie. I would have just preferred if maybe they just made it a little bit longer. Currently it is only 105 minutes. Okay, so it's 105 minutes, but that's, including credits. So it's basically an hour and a half. It's pretty much just an hour and a half. I like it, but it could have been better. That's basically my thing there. So, with the flaws intact, and how much I just, love the animation, again, I have to keep saying that, I would give this, I want to give it, see, a part of me says 7, because of plot, but 7s are harsh for me. I tend to err on the better side if I really like something. You know what? I'll give this an 8. I will give this an 8. It's not perfect. And honestly, if it weren't for the center area being a bit rushed, like the character development, the bond between Yuta and the second year is being rushed, I would actually probably rate this as a 9. So, animation presentation-wise, a 9. Let's say an 8.5. Yeah, the final grade, 8.5 out of 10. It's good. Go see this. If you want to introduce somebody to Jujutsu Kaisen, like get them interested in the series and you don't know how to explain it to them, taking them to this movie is a completely amazing. It would be a great way to do it. Just go ahead. Take some random people to this movie. They don't need to know anything about this show to go see it. It's a good introductory point to the series. It has great animation, good voice acting, really unnerving visuals sometimes. Check it out. Okay, moving on from that, we get spoiler talk. Yay. Sorry. Those last few minutes, if you guys noticed anything different from that last section, if I was a bit calmer, I'm trying to get myself a bit more organized for the proper review sections of these, reviews. So when I talk about the movie in the review, I'm going to try and have it more structured. I have an outline of things I want to talk about with me right now that I write up before I go sit down for this. And it just helps me keep my thoughts organized so I don't ramble as much. I found myself, and the reason I did that is because when I was watching my Elden Ring review for editing, I just started groaning myself. It's like, oh, it's already on Buzzsprout. I should not have uploaded this. And it's a shame because I really liked Elden Ring and I feel like that review is one of my worst, reviews, personally speaking. I have a lot of enthusiasm for it. I think I talk about some interesting things. I just don't think it's organized particularly well. And so I'm trying to focus on that for the future. But my personal problems aside, and that little, fourth wall break right there over with, let's get back into Jujutsu Kaisen 0. So, this movie was a lot of fun. I give it an 8.5, but I will say, again, if it weren't for that middle section, this would be amazing. Yuta and Rika's a freaking monster, terrifying. So what happens is the villain, Gato, challenges the sorcerers to the parade of 1,000 demons or whatever, 100 demons, where he unleashes a bunch of Jujutsu sorcerers that are on his side, along with a lot of cursed spirits, and basically challenges them to war. Obviously, they don't want Yuta, who's still a bit unstable at this point, to be getting involved in this. He's also a new student. He hasn't been training as long as the others have. So, again, obviously, we'll leave him at base, surrounded by a bunch of guards. It'll be fine. Turns out this has all been a trick. See, Gato needs Yuta, or more specifically, the spirit of Rika, in order to actually win the day. Rika's powerful enough to take on Gojo. If he were to combine its power with all the other spirits he possesses, he'd be able to beat Gojo. And if he can beat Gojo, he can then crush the entire Jujutsu Sorcerer Order, because a lot of their elders are old fucks who don't know the first thing about what they're doing, and who are so out of touch with the world. That's, a recurrent theme. So he can put his world the might makes right. We also get a bit of flashes of the people who serve under him. There are these two teenage girls who were born out in the rural parts of Japan, and their powers were seen as unnatural and strange because they didn't know they were basically the Muggle-born wizards essentially. So they, they didn't have families who understood that this was normal, and when obviously their village saw they could move objects with their mind and stuff like that because they couldn't see the spirits. They could definitely see what the spirits were, affecting. They couldn't see you can't see a blazing magical fire, but you can definitely see something burning without any flame in the open air. they, like, apparently locked them up and tortured them. It's like, oh yeah, I can totally get why they support this guy who wants to subjugate all the normies and, you know, make it so that they can be on top. He saved their lives. He's preaching a philosophy that shows they can help others who might be in situations like theirs. Yeah, that's completely understandable. You also get, you know, others, taste of others. This other guy from Kenya who's really interesting. He has this, like, magical hair who's been braided by curse users in his family for generations, and it contains all sorts of magical properties, but as he fights with it, he slowly burns it up, so he has to make sure he's only putting as much in as he takes out so he can continue passing it down, and that's just a really cool concept. It's like a family heirloom. It's like, yeah, we take all our hair and we braid it together into this whip, brimming with magical energy, but if we use too much of it, our family's gift would be lost forever. It's like, okay, that's cool. I like that. He fights Gojo and tries to distract him. Gojo utterly wrecks his ass because Gojo is the best. Sorry. Gojo is so much fun. He's just so absent-mindedly powerful, and, he's just like, I've always had a thing for the really OP character who always has to be distracted from the actual, plot, because otherwise they would just, like, win instantly. Because I feel like it gives the villains a bit of a disadvantage, whereas usually the heroes are at a disadvantage, so Gojo is just a lot of fun. Plus his personality, he's just, like, so laid back compared to all the serious sorcerers around him. Like, everyone else is like, Gojo, can you take this seriously? Oh, I'm taking this seriously, alright? I just think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I don't know. That personality type has always just been really interesting to me. Which is strange, because I'm usually a subdued and grumpy one. But yeah. So, going on from there, obviously, it was all a trap. Geto comes back to the Sorcerer Academy where Maki and Yuta are. He tries to attack her, nearly kills his friends. Gojo sends Panda and Toge to go help him buy a bit of time so Gojo can get there after he, you know, because he realizes pretty early on, it's like, oh shit, the enemy distracted me again. Fuck, why is everyone always trying to get me out of the way? It's like, because you're too powerful, Gojo. You're too OP. We gotta take you out of the equation. He realized it pretty early on because Geto didn't show up. He's like, oh shit, he's after Rika. And Yuta has a revelation where it was actually his abilities that turned Rika into a curse. When he saw her dying, he wanted her to live and be with him forever. So turns out he's actually descended from a powerful Jujutsu sorcerer. He didn't have a lot of family growing up from what we saw, and he had latent abilities and accidentally used them and his cursed energy accidentally created Rika. He was learning to control that energy. Turns out he's actually distantly related to Gojo, although it's like one of those, 10th cousin once removed kind of things. But, all in all, very interesting twist. It was definitely foreshadowed enough. I like how it's resolved where Yuta finally lets Rika go in the end after they beat Geto, and he frees her, and she's like, and she's not angry with him or anything like that. When her spirit's finally freed from the cursed energy, she's just like, thank you. I'm glad I was able to be here a bit longer. I don't blame you. It's just like, oh, that's sweet. It's an anime happy ending. So, Yuta still decides to continue Jujutsu High School, and he's, now a proper sorcerer. Turns out he can actually do stuff. And la-di-da. But, you're wondering, wait, didn't you say he's not in the first season? What happened to him? Well, apparently in a post-credit scene, we see Miguel. He was the sorcerer with the hair whip, who Gojo beat and convinced him to work for him now. So, Yuta has been working with him in Kenya. On some unspecified project, and after the events of the first season, he's going to be heading back to Japan. So he's going to go meet up with the main characters and be a part of the, second year class, which is going to be nice. I actually like Yuto. Yuto came off as really depressing to me. It's just like, okay, dude, come on. Do something. No, you're just going to be miserable and depressed the whole time? Yeah. Yeah, okay. If I wanted that, I would just go back into reality and stare at a wall. But, that's the way it is. But he really does come out of his shell. A lot of anime characters say they do, but he really feels like he actually does. He grows a lot throughout the character. He's really shy and reserved. Like I said, he tried to kill himself in that cell when the Jujutsu sorcerers locked him up. The first thing he shows Goto is the, twisted knife that Rika literally turned into a frickin' pretzel when he tried to stab himself. So, he goes from that to actually wanting to help people even after Rika's been freed just because he can. He's definitely an interesting contrast with the the main series protagonist. The main series protagonist is very outgoing and physically adept, whereas, Yuto is, like, he's almost supernaturally strong even before he becomes a curse user in the main series, like the main protagonist, Yuji. And he's always super outgoing and friendly and smiles, whereas Yuta's almost like I'd say almost like a sun and moon comparison here, where Yuta is like the outgoing, brilliant sun and, Yuji, I'm sorry, is the outgoing, brilliant sun, and Yuta is like the soft and quiet moon character. Very nice. I actually kind of like Yuta a bit better by the end. Like, don't get me wrong, Yuji is a great character, he's fun, but I kind of just like Yuta's, like, quiet confidence he has near the end. Like, he goes not just from, he's still an introvert, very clear. Like, one of the things I always had a problem with is when they take an introverted character and they just say, oh, all he needs some friends, and now he's like a complete extrovert. And I'm like, that's not how that works. Not at all. Like, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm actually a very private person. Doing this is something I've only been doing in recent years, and I've always had trouble interacting with people directly in person. A lot. I know, such a shocking delivery on the internet. But I eventually did find a group of friends I'm very active with, and I'm a bit more outgoing with. But around other people, I'm still very introverted. I still take people to the side. And even if I have a bit more confidence when interacting with people now, I'm still not the most comfortable with it. And so I can relate a lot to Yuta, even especially near the end. I think he's a lot of fun. And, I think he's great. So that's about all I have there. It's not a lot of movie here, like I said. And a lot of it is just introducing the concepts, introducing the characters, because it's basically a setup, essentially, for a show that already had a setup, but for what it is, it's a good 8.5 out of 10. If you're looking for more anime, like, if you like Demon Slayer and stuff like that, you're gonna like this. It's another one of those horror tinge series, and horror action anime have really just been, like, the bomb lately. You had Attack on Titan, which I know started in 2010. I know that started, I was in high school. Oh god, I was in fucking high school when that started. Jeez. I feel old. Oh, jeez. That's finally finishing. God, that took like 8 years to finish. It only has 4 seasons. Ugh. But, yeah, so you got Attack on Titan's 4th season coming out. You have Jujutsu Kaisen, you have Demon Slayer. And shows like this that blend action horror are great for me personally. If you like that kind of stuff, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. If you like things like Evil Dead, you might have fun with it. If you like animation in general, this is a wild ride with some amazing sights. Check it out, bring some friends. This could definitely do better at the box office. I would really like to see it do well in America. Please, let us show that anime is popular. I know everybody knows that. The Demon Slayer was an amazing release. So, yeah, I will see you guys next time. And if you are listening to this Friday morning, on Friday, March 24th, 2022, I will be streaming Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm getting my copy tomorrow, and I will be streaming it at 6:30. For those of you who know, I guess today, if you're watching it the day it comes out, because I'm recording this on Thursday, but I release it on Friday, so. So please support me. If you're watching this on Buzzsprout, Podpage, or you're watching it on, Apple Podcasts, if you're watching it on Google Store, check me out on YouTube. Links are in the description below, to all my stuff. Check it out. That'd be really nice. And if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry, this is going to come out like a week later because it takes me a while to edit these things. And I'm a bit inconsistent with my release dates. I do apologize. I'm trying to get better with that, but editing video is still a new thing to me, and I'm trying to make these less of slideshows, so. But, yeah. I hope you guys will come around for the Ghostwire Tokyo stream. I will be streaming that this Friday. I'm going to try and do some on Saturday. I might not be able to. And then I'm going to start streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the week until I finish that game. I'm also going to be streaming another game after that, which is really interesting. It has like a storybook art style. I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, so look out that. I have like 2 new games. I'm going to go see that Batman movie. I might go see that Jungle Adventure book movie where the stunt cover guy is trying to be the hero. With the writer of a book series that turns out to be true. That's a lot of interesting things in the horizon. I also have a few new books. So, got things for the future. See you guys next time. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.